Yo, what's good? Welcome back to Choose Courage Inc., where we skip the boring intros and jump straight into reimagining business and workplace experiences with We Ain't Afraid to Go There conversations. Last week, we ended up skipping the podcast because I was in the midst of moving to Mexico. So that's where I'm at right now. And so in this recording, if you're hearing birds, if you're hearing things in the background, that's one of the reasons why. And so in the spirit of that, I've just been in this space of thinking about what it might look like to trade survival for softness. What it might look like to trade productivity for presence. And so in today's episode, I'm joined by my co-host Ash, and together we unpack what it means to live a soft life, not as an aesthetic, but as a radical act of self-trust, personal accountability, and ultimately generational healing. From rejecting the pressure to be the default caregiver, to honoring boundaries without apology, to recognizing guilt as a relic of conditioning, we go there in this conversation. And I want you to think about this conversation as a permission slip and a gentle nudge, a reminder that you don't have to earn rest. You don't have to prove your worth. You don't have to carry what was never yours to carry in the first place. So whether you're walking, working, or just taking a moment for yourself, I hope you join us because this episode is a love letter to the version of you that's learning to be kinder to yourself, louder in your truth, and unapologetically committed to softness. Let's get it. Yeah, I'm curious about what's been on your mind.
Yeah. What's been on my mind is as I'm really accepting my higher quality self, so not even the giving myself permission to dream bigger or anything of that sort, but more importantly, accepting the fact that I am a high quality individual, knowing that I am deserving of good things, all of this stuff that takes a lot of mental fortitude to get through, just given what society teaches you about yourself. As it's starting to resonate into my product, thinking about how I can move past these ideas that used to hold me. So stuff like, oh, you're a Black woman founder. That statement carries a lot of weight, and there are statistics that support that. And in a lot of ways that becomes a drastic negative unless you're looking at the benefits of being a Black woman founder, and maybe there are programs that support specifically Black women founders. I just don't have a desire or a mind to let that title attach itself onto my value or my newly accepted life of being a worthy individual in this startup space. Additionally, it's the I do deserve good things. I do deserve, yeah, I don't know. There's just a mindset shift that's happened recently where I just decided none of this stuff is serving, but also none of it is true. And in this existence that
Yeah.
I'm in, none of it's true. I'm a founder, I have a product, I'm successful. And I think our last conversation about talking and defining success was the foundation to that, and realizing like all of the trials and challenges that I thought were ahead of me are actually I've already accomplished my way through those.
Mm.
So, anyways, now I'm just kind of going off on a soapbox.
I think I don't know. I feel like I've been in this place. Actually, I just hopped off a phone call with someone, old high school friend who I haven't talked to in a very, very long time. And we were just kind of catching up on life, where we are with work, our careers, what have you. And one of the things I was kind of talking to her about was this season of healing that I've been in, specifically from like endish of 2022 to the end of 2024. 0 out of 5 stars, healing seasons. They're not great. They're very painful. But in doing so, I started to recognize these mental barriers, beliefs that I think had held me back for a really long time.
Mm.
I think part of it, and there's a lot of them, one of them is about the need to prove that I'm enough, that what I'm doing is worthwhile, that it is valuable. Mhm. Having to learn how to just recognize and champion myself outside of people's voices and approval.
Yep.
That's childhood stuff. Another thing that kinda came up was being able to find your voice in ways that prioritize your needs first versus
Mhm.
always using your voice to advocate and prioritize others' needs. Woof.
That one is a whole I literally just got done saying this to my sister this morning, and then I have a running partner. It stemmed off of what I was talking to her about, where I'm living a new soft life. Like, I've declared this, I've said it, I'm living the soft life, and a part of the soft life is one of the silly parts about it is I'm reading this book that is a romantasy book. Is not my genre
What's for
at all.
romanticy?
Romantic fantasy. And I've never been a person who's, "Oh my gosh, there's this one author everyone reads, and I'm not entertained." Because the characters are to me, they're so stupid, and the storylines are just so basic, and it's steamy and it's hot and we're on an island and blah, blah. It just, to me, it's nauseating. And I came across this book because I joined a mom group with my daughter's school, and they're all Black moms, less one, and just experiencing like this soft life. We're exchanging these ideas of how we are living this softer life. And they're like, "Yeah, I started reading these books and I really enjoy them." And I usually don't do those books, but I'm going to trust y'all and I'm going to read one. So I start reading this book. I was listening to it on a long run. So it was like 10 miles of listening to this book. And I get to the end of the run I was on, and I talked to my husband, I'm like, "This is the stupidest book I've ever listened to. I cannot believe this woman, she's so dumb." But that's very unlike me to judge people in that way or to say things so blatantly. Now, clearly, I'm talking about a character in a book, so that maybe made me feel better about it. But then my husband goes, "It sounded like it was at least entertaining." Because of my response, right? Like, you can't come away from an experience like that being that charged about the situation and not have found entertainment in it. So it gave me pause to think about, okay, I can keep reading or listening to this book. I can be entertained by it. And I was explaining that to my friend this morning. She's a Filipina. And I'm just so set on being serious. I don't think I can enjoy a book like this. And I said, I felt the exact same way in the beginning as well. I usually read self-help books or memoirs or nonfiction, and this is very much outside of my genre. But then we got to this point where like you had just said, I just don't the seriousness, I've carried that weight for a long time. Being the responsible, being the serious, being the knowledgeable one, bringing the facts to the table, being the one who pushes. And I'm not doing that anymore. I know that was a long way of saying it, but you hit that nail right on the head where we don't have to do that anymore.
Yeah, and part of that is recognizing that we don't have to endure anymore.
Mhm,
And I being at least for me, I know that at a young age, I was kind of conditioned for that. You just kind of endure, or things aren't
mhm,
fair, things are hard, whatever it is, you just endure. But I was a kid and I didn't have a lot of autonomy or power then over my own life. And so now
mhm,
it's like, no, it's like, okay, I don't have to do that anymore. One thing I appreciate about what you said though was acknowledging like I don't have to be like that serious person all the time.
mhm,
And, and I think that actually just kind of unlocked something for me of what has maybe gotten in the way of me fully embracing more of a soft life at different times is that level of seriousness, whether it's about needing to care about people or talking about hard and like complicated things like trauma or what have you. And I think you just gave me language for what I've been looking for and wanting in this next season of life is I want to tether myself to my experience of being serious.
yeah, it is this soft life, it's really fascinating too because this has been a joint effort as a family. This has been conversations I've had with my siblings. It's been conversations I've had with my partner. It's been conversations I've had with my children because I think that in order for me to assume this soft life, what needs to happen is folks need to realize the boundaries that I set and the accountability that's required in their corner will be respected on my end. In other words, because I no longer want to shoulder these things. And it is a want. This is not something where it's, oh, I'm so broken, I need a soft or no, this was a decision of I am a person who deserves rest. I'm a person who deserves nice things. I'm a person who deserves ease and simplicity and enjoyment. And because of that, I am okay with, like my partner, for example, I'm okay with calling out your bullshit. And instead of an old habit that I've had, which is then coaching them through what accountability looks like to said bullshit, they just get to figure it out. But you're welcome. You're welcome for me calling it out. That's a gift. And now it's your responsibility how you want to respond to that. And then I also, in addition to that, let them know how I respond to how you respond is 100% according to my boundaries. So if, say, you didn't take out the trash on Monday night because Tuesday morning the trash comes to get picked up, and we're walking our child to the bus stop on Tuesday morning, and the trash truck is coming around the corner, and you say, "Oh, shoot, I forgot to put the garbage out." Or I ask you, "Did you put the garbage out?" Like we have a chore chart, that is your chore. Then I'm not running to go fix that problem. I'm not going to run around the corner back to the house to put the garbage out so it gets picked up on time. I'm not doing that. You can do it.
Yeah.
And then from there, afterwards, if the garbage doesn't get picked up, I don't have to go out of my way to make it easy from the mistake. And this is not something where it's a punishment. This is just my boundary was, I'm not doing that. I'm not overextending on things that are clearly your responsibility that you need to be accountable for.
Mhm.
If you need help, I'm there for the help. But if this is just simply something, I I I deserve to be free of burden from that responsibility that you let fall.
Yeah. Yeah. That is it's such a shift though. And so
Mhm.
I appreciate even just that example of what does it look like to actually have some boundaries and to not overextend yourself. And it's making me think about I know the language of the soft life and there's a lot of things that can be attached to that, but as you're talking, I think I'm just realizing that I'm really just trying to live.
Mhm.
I think before it's the soft life is about living versus surviving, right?
Surviving,
Yeah.
exactly. To be the container that keeps you, and I'm not even gonna say safe because a lot of these things don't keep us safe. And I mean safe from ourselves, right? There comes a point where you have to realize that your actions are making it unsafe for you. And I think that's a big part of this soft life as well, is if I value me and I deserve good things, I'm going to go to bed on time. And there's this this sounds extreme, but I communicate to myself by getting tattoos. Like my tattoos are very much a story to myself. And I don't even know where I heard this, but someone had said, "You worship at the altar of you." And so like just got altar tattooed. That's my plan. Just get altar tattooed right across there. Just to remind myself of the person I'm holding accountable to is me. And then everyone else around me gets the benefit of that because I'm keeping myself safe and I'm doing the things that are right for me. And I'm not overextending and I'm not dysregulating. And I'm doing all of these things because I'm a boundaried person who deserves to be respected. And if you can't respect yourself, then who else is going to respect you? If you can't keep promises to yourself, then how are you going to keep promises to other people?
Yeah, or it's like we're so hard and distrusting of people who break their word to us, but when we break our word to ourselves. And again, not saying that we need to be harsh, but it's about understanding that we are also in a relationship with ourselves. And I think it's actually that disconnect that causes people to stay in jobs longer than they should, that
Mhm.
cause people to not think about how do I take this dream, this idea that I have and bring it to life.
Mhm.
That disconnect keeps people from actually doing the healing work that they need to do and should have done years ago. And so, yeah, I just appreciate the call to prioritize and to not forget your relationship with yourself. I mean,
Mhm.
I moved to Mexico officially on Sunday,
Mhm.
and even like that decision, even though I heard a lot of people who were like questioning it, or is it gonna be safe, or how this gonna work, I did it because I knew like my relationship with myself needed it.
Right. Right.
Hey, this is Vivian, and I hope you're enjoying this episode so far. And I just wanted to pause for a quick moment to say that this podcast is ad free on purpose. And we want to keep it that way so that it feels like a space that's just for us and just a little bit more divorced from noise on what we should buy and what we should consume. And so the best way to help us do that is by sharing it with someone you think would really connect with it, someone who you think would feel encouraged or get something out of this episode, or by leaving an honest review because it helps more folks find us. And honestly, it could be the exact thing someone else needed to hear today, just because you took a moment to spread the word. So thanks for being here. I appreciate you, and let's get back to it. A lot of other specifics that I could like name off as to why, but I did it because I knew it'd be like the loving and kind thing to do for myself. To
The
my
loving and kind thing to do for yourself, right? I think I've grown so accustomed to, especially given my childhood, making sure that others feel extensive love and care, even at the detriment of my own self. And it w it was like a light bulb that went off that said, "I haven't moved anywhere, but I'm going on a trip on Monday, and I'm going on this trip by myself, selfishly, if you wanna call it that." And it's funny too, because I remember my sister's immediate response was, "So you're leaving your kids?" And no, of course I'm not leaving my kids. But similarly, if I'm honoring where I'm at, if I'm honoring the things that I've grown to and I've healed from and I've worked through, then it's important for me to say and do certain things. And this trip I'm taking is in preparation for the next number of big moves, not physical big moves, but big moves, personally, professionally, like with my family. It's going to help me orient myself for those decisions and for those actions. And that to me is the ultimate kindness. Saying that out loud, that I was going to go on this trip and I was going to do this thing, was probably one of the hardest things that I've ever done because am I leaving my kids? What about my husband? What about my friends? What about the things here? And the world will quickly try to convince you not to do what you personally know is taking care of you on account of, unfortunately, a number of systems that can use their own accountability and use their own growth and use their own space to establish themselves. And that's both from a personal and a systemic thing. What does it look like when mom leaves the home for 3 weeks? What systems are in place there? What does it look like for the kids to they're going on a couple of trips while I'm away, right? These are things that I feel are beneficial for all parties involved. But it started with me declaring what I was going to do for my own safety, my own care, my own boundaries, the thing I knew that I needed to do.
Now, I imagine that there are some people who are listening to this and they're like, okay, I vibe with the idea of being more loving and kind to myself and understanding that other people could potentially benefit from it, but that's not even the point. What about for folks who are maybe struggling with guilt around that or
Mhm.
just a level of resistance towards putting themselves first? Like, what would you say?
That is a good question. The guilt is a big one because the guilt is conditioning. And you really have to go back to that place where the guilt began. What was the situation that made you feel you needed to hold this standard or you needed to be the the healer in this way or you needed to be the caregiver in this way? And this happens at work a lot too. So I see this a lot in when people don't want to leave that job. You mentioned this earlier, when they stay at a job longer than they should. But as a manager for a number of years, you even see it when people go on vacation or on maternity, paternity leave or FMLA, where they're like, oh my goodness, who's going to take care of this while I'm gone? Or if I'm not here to make my impression, are people going to forget about me? And so I think those questions become the thing that platform the guilt, and they deserve a little bit of unpacking of if your concern is, are people going to forget about you? In what situation or circumstance in your life were you forgotten about? And in what way can you support yourself through recognizing you're unforgettable? And just move through that thought process of I feel guilty because, for me, the guilt my sister tried to assist in me leaving for 3 weeks was, "Are you leaving your kids?" I know exactly where that comes from. We survived by a single mom whose father left us and who had extensive abandonment throughout our childhood. And we have talked extensively about how we want to grow our families and how we want to always be there. And we don't ever want to find ourselves in a place of divorce and all this other stuff. All these ideologies that make sense on paper when you're thinking about the quote perfect family. And then when you start to practice that out, you realize like there are reasons why people leave. And not to say that it is always reasonable reasons, but people leave. And how do we support ourselves through that loss? And how do we find value even still? Or people get divorced. How do you find your own independence after being co-partnered, etc.? So I think the guilt or the folks who are having a hard time finding the space to be kind to themselves is questioning, what questions do you have if you were to remove yourself or you were to do the thing, and then unpacking what that is. But then more importantly, if you're going to be the best friend to yourself, wouldn't you be your biggest support rather than your biggest op? right? Like, I'd be the first one to tell you, girl, get it. Move to Mexico, get your life, do your thing. So why would I be hesitant to say the same things to myself?
I mean, I think, and we'll have to make this a whole separate episode, but I think for some people that's hard because they don't have good people in their life. Or they've
Oof.
even learned to endure subpar friendships for so long because
Yeah.
if they don't at least have those our friendships, then what do they have?
Hmm.
So, but we can record that another time. I love what you're saying though about just that advice about guilt. And I think one thing people, if you are struggling with guilt as you're kind of processing this idea of being more loving and kind to yourself, is that you don't overcome guilt by pretending it's not there.
Hmm.
You overcome guilt by refusing to make it your compass, right?
Hmm.
And one thing that I've had to learn, and one thing that I continue to learn, is that guilt is not always an indicator of wrongdoing. Sometimes
Right.
it's just a signal that you're breaking a generational pattern or disappointing a system that benefited from you being small, silent, or self abandoning in the first place. So instead of trying to erase the guilt, one thing I've learned to do is to get a little bit more curious about it, kind of like what you were saying of asking some of these questions. So I started asking things like, whose voice is this guilt echoing? More times than
Hmm.
not, probably someone in the past. For me, it's usually related to like family upbringing stuff. Who told me that my needs were negotiable? And who benefits when I neglect myself? Who benefits? It's like
Hmm.
giving yourself some time to just pause, think, and again, build. It's another moment of building that relationship with yourself. A lot of times we like experience guilt and then we just kind of acknowledge it, but then keep it moving. But it's no,
Hmm.
this is actually an opportunity to cultivate even intimacy with yourself. Because I think for me, the wild part has been like, I just stopped trying to be the helpful one
Hmm.
or the one who's always available because
Yep.
good, helpful, and available were getting me to a place of feeling exhausted and forgotten, even by
Yep.
myself.
Hmm.
Oh, so
That is
it's
such a
like,
word. Please go on. I'll cut you off.
no, you're good. You're good. I'm kind of like processing. I think when it comes to being loving and kind, there's obviously like bigger things that people can shift to. Quit that job that's killing you and your marriage. Start believing that you can actually turn your idea into something real and tangible. Those are like bigger things, right? But there's also
Hmm.
small things. It's saying no without a huge explanation about why I'm saying no.
Right.
It's letting people be disappointed in me and surviving it.
Surviving it.
Surviving it.
Hmm.
Like, I will not die if people are disappointed. It's making peace. The fact that not everyone deserves equal access to me. Very few people actually deserve that.
Yep. And the circle gets smaller and smaller the more you realize your value and the care that is necessary for you to hold your peace. Because the piece you said was who benefits? And that is me and my husband have this conversation all the time because I think the default parent, which is a conversation in a lot of parenting relationships, is, oh, well, I know the clothing sizes, I know the shoe sizes, I know the teachers' names, I know their emails, I know blah, blah, right? So I'm the default parent. When I leave for 3 weeks and it's the last week of school for my kids, who's benefiting from me staying? Now we can say that the children are benefiting because they have their needs met. I assure you my children are not starving and they will not be going broke anytime soon. And as my therapist says, you have very well taken care of children. Them going to class with their hair done, unkempt one day is not going to kill us, which is a huge trigger for me as a child, right? Like thinking about my black child trauma and always having our hair be done because heaven forbid someone think that we are Bebe's kids or raggedy little black kids. So it's the unpacking of that. Who's benefiting if I stick around? And to what extent? Does my husband really need me to be here to tell him what my daughter's teacher's email is when he has all the resources in the world to find that. I just make it more convenient. And I think too often people get accustomed to the convenience. It's not even the need. It's that we've allowed them to grow lazy in their own habits, their own responsibilities, their own accountability, because we are efficient at what we do. He'll be fine. He'll be all right. The kids will be fine, you know? And then mom comes home having done all the things that she said she was going to do because she keeps promises to herself. And it feels so great to be a confident parent to my children, specifically my daughter, to allow her to know that we do things for ourselves because we are valuable and because we deserve them.
You're touching on something that I hope resonates with parents who are listening is your kids don't even realize that they're waiting for you to be more loving and kind to yourself and to keep your promises and your word to yourself.
They don't.
And that's a powerful thing to think about. I'm trying to think about if I had that or witnessed that from a healthy parent growing up, just how that would have manifested into me today as an adult.
Hmm.
And so I think like with that, it's another reminder too of when you're feeling, if you're like starting to feel like guilt, it's not proof that you're doing something bad. It's proof that you're just doing something different.
Hmm.
And when you can kind of make that shift and you can understand things like you said about what are the areas in my life that maybe I'm just making more convenient for other people.
Hmm.
It's not even about the need anymore.
No.
It's about the convenience, not even the need.
Yep.
That part.
It's so much unpacking. And I appreciate what you said about children waiting on their parents to be their better self, like their best self. And as you mentioned, I have a similar situation where I don't know that I've ever seen my parent be their best self and their most healed self. And I think about also that guilt where it's not necessarily coming from a bad place, but we have ancestral loyalty in our bodies that create guilt in some ways, like you said, because we have never gone to these places before. We have never existed as a family unit that stays married in the entire history of my family, right? So it's like things like that sending children to school, having this international life that we have, these are things where it feels guilty and it feels stunted sometimes because it's working through that loyalty we have to our ancestral bounds that are set to keep us safe because there is no path that has been tread in that direction. But who's to say that we're not the ones creating the new path
Who's
by
to say
overcoming that?
Yeah, who's to say that you're not the one
Mm-hmm.
to start treading those paths? Thanks for hanging out with us and diving into some of these real and unfiltered conversations. We know your time is valuable, and so we don't take it for granted. If today's episode made you think, if it challenged you, or gave you something new to consider, we'd love for you to hit that follow button on whatever streaming service you're using. That way, you'll never miss an episode when we drop them. And if you want to go even deeper, sign up for our newsletter at choosecourageinc.com, and you'll get updates on new episodes, access to exclusive freebies, and first dibs on coaching opportunities and other resources to help you make bold moves in your life and business. So we appreciate you, we see you, and we're rooting for you. Until next time, keep choosing courage over comfort, and your friendly reminder to drink some water.